My name's Erik Proulx. I made a film called Lemonade that's about 16 advertising professionals who lost their jobs but found something that was eminently more important to them. Their identities, something that was more meaningful to them than that position that they just lost, and they went on to do really inspiring things. We'll actually be showing it during lunchtime, and I'm kind of proud of it, so hopefully if you go get a sandwich, you'll come back and it'll be playing. It's just 35-minute, little short. Just a year ago, I was here in the audience, watching people up here, feeling like, how the hell do people get so smart? And I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me if I start to stumble, because this is an incredible honor for me to be up here. So before I get into my presentation too deeply about Reinvention, I want to introduce you to my mom. She's the kid with the kid. She's 18 years old, single mom. We grew up sort of poorest of the poor, on welfare, lived on government cheese, had food stamps to survive. And my mom did something amazing, and that was use the public welfare system the way it should be used. She went, put herself in training, put me in daycare, and eventually got a job working for the place that trained her, and eventually after that, some 20 years later, became the executive director of that place. So she's been an incredible inspiration for me, and has taught me everything I need to know about survival, including putting me through college. That's me, 1993, University of New Hampshire, hungover. And had a freshly minted English degree with no earthly idea what I was going to do with it. Until about a year later, Tony Kaye introduced me to this girl on TV in the United Way commercial. It was beautiful, black and white, the score was amazing. The copy was poetic, it was art, 30 seconds of pure, emotional art that actually brought a tear to my eye, and it struck me. Holy shit, somebody had to write that. And I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or so I thought. I spent the next 15 years going from city to city, job to job. Went back to school in Atlanta. Actually, at one point went to Atlanta, back to Boston, Atlanta, back to Boston for job, school, or school, job. And getting laid off 3 times along the way. So it turns out I didn't actually want to get into advertising per se. What I wanted to do was tell stories. I wanted to connect with people emotionally and help them overcome this fear of their circumstances, the same way that my mom did back in 1971. It took lots of relocating and a few layoffs to realize this, but advertising for me is just one way to do what I love. I can have a movie-making career, I can have a blogging career, pleaseFeedTheAnimals.com. I can have a book writing career, which I'm starting to have an agent now, which blows my mind. I can write grants, I can speak, I can blog, I can do all this, and it all adds up to a much more worthwhile career than the single definition of advertising copywriter. So we are at a trends conference here, so here's a trend that I would really love to see take off in the next decade and beyond, and it's how we all define ourselves. If we could start saying we aren't what we do, but we should do what we are, that would be amazing to me and to everybody. I mean, just the idea of not being defined by people, what people look at you, say you are, but doing what you are. The former is outward in, it's defined for us. Hi, America, I'm a copywriter. The latter is inside out. And when we do what we are, our lives and careers are defined from us and not to us. So I'm going to introduce you to a bunch of people now who are doing what they are and aren't defined by what they do. They're inspiring for me, and I'm going to do it pseudo-Pechacucha style because there's a bunch of them and I want to kind of blow through them quickly. Josh Coburn lost his job as a copywriter and spent a full year tweaking his book, and ended up saying, I'm not creating anything, I'm a creative guy, I need to create. So he built the treehouse of his dreams, 2 stories, bay windows, electricity. and got some press coverage, and very poetically hammering in the last nail on the door in this treehouse. The phone rang in his house. He heard it. They left a message. It was a job offer from his #1 agency, TDA Advertising and Design. Said, "We saw the news. We want to hire you." Sandy Wheaton lost her job at General Motors. Got in her Jeep, packed up her trailer, went from one end of Route 66 to the other with an infrared camera, time-lapse infrared camera on the front of her car, taking photos every couple seconds along the way, to the tune of sponsorship and a book deal by the time she was done. Clark Moss was a creative director at a big advertising agency until the economy decided that he was no longer a creative director of an advertising agency, and he started a company called Social Fingerprint that helps retailers improve working conditions, child labor practices, and human rights of all the suppliers in their global supply chain. Shara, no idea what her last name is, she won't tell me. But Shara was an account director for 2 different agencies in a year, got laid off twice in 1 year in Portland, and she took her risk as her childhood dream was to be a belly dancer, and she went on to just take all the classes she could, and now is nationally acclaimed, is considered the best, among the best in her art, and tours all over the world as a belly dancer. Jonathan Fields is a good friend of mine, worked himself to death, almost nearly to death, and that's literal. He was a lawyer, I believe on Wall Street, and got a tumor developed in his intestines, benign, thank God, tumor in his intestines that his immune system could no longer fight because he wasn't sleeping, he wasn't eating, and all he was drinking was coffee. So he fired himself at this, high 6-figure corporate attorney job and became a yoga instructor. He became a yogi, opened a yoga studio, sold that yoga studio, wrote a book called Career Renegade, and now has a home business. And if you can guess which picture is actually genuinely happy in these two, one's a fake smile, one isn't. You know where I'm coming from. Oh, we missed a photo. Didn't translate. Well, there's a husband and wife team here, Kathy Sierra and Bert Bates, who were both developers, lost their jobs at the same time, and went on to write a best-selling series of books called Head First that are tech books made for kind of like tech for idiots. Are now the #1 selling computer series on Amazon with over 1 million copies sold to date. And it all happened because they lost their job. Gabrielle Yetter, Gabrielle's sister and her baby were killed in a car crash, and this is years ago, and her mother's therapist advised her, get it all out, scream into a pillow, say everything and anything you want to say, angry and otherwise. Just get it out and scream into a pillow. So Gabrielle started a company called the Brightside Group that actually makes a product called the Screaming Pillow. She made specifically with her mother in mind, to pass on to other people with similar grief. The instructions actually right on the pillow say, when you have to let it out, please place face here and scream. Melissa Smith was an account executive, lost her job, and and started a company called Zoe Cakes. And as she says it, getting laid off was the push I needed to get out of my comfort zone and do what I love more than anything, to sit in my kitchen at night and create little pieces of art. Christine Caravo had to close her thriving San Francisco events business because her mother was dying in Arizona. She went to Arizona to take care of her mother, who passed away after a fairly long struggle, went back to San Francisco to get her business going again, and then her father got terminally ill in Denver. Had to go to Denver, take care of him, and now, just a few months ago, launched a company called Carebox, which creates a series of gifts to give people who are facing terminal illness, they and their families. Aptly called, this series was the Lemonade series. Paul Cunningham was the photo editor for Major League Baseball, and Paul's job was hanging on by a thread, saw the writing on the wall, and decided to fire himself and create a company called Leatherhead Sports, where he could combine his passion for art with his passion for sports, and he makes hand-stitched leather baseballs and footballs for actual use, for kicking, for your kids. I mean, they're gorgeous pieces of art, but he actually, but he makes them tough enough to withstand the rigors of youth. Garrett Hill. I'm just going to read from Garrett's self-written bio because he does it better than I could. My cell phone, Here. My cell phone gets stolen at church. So I get the idea to buy and sell working recycled phones at low prices to people who had theirs broken, lost, or stolen. I mail them on my way to and from the beach every day. I winter in Southern California and summer in New York City. I'm Garrett Hill, founder of gphones.biz. I'm a cell phone superhero saving the world. Jeff Shattuck fell down on his way to the bathroom one night and got brain damage. He hit his head and got brain damage. Left him too disoriented and dizzy to work full time. He actually lost his job because of an injury. After losing his job, what he did rediscover was his passion for music, which had been beaten out of him from all the hours he was putting in as a creative person at an ad agency. Jeff has his first album coming out, aptly titled Cerebellum Blues. Kristen Size, not quite sure how to pronounce her name, has her degree in marine biology, but she was working, severely unemployed, working as a clerk in a dress shop. With nothing to lose, started a kayaking, mountain biking, and hiking business on the Cornwall and the Hudson called Storm King Adventures, which is now a thriving local business with a cult following, and they actually donate tons of tours to Marines who have been injured in battle. Susan Sue, who is here in the audience. Susan quit her day job, set a really aggressive goal that she would launch her first jewelry line by September, which she accomplished, and now has her first store opening up April 21st, a pop-up store on Lexington Ave. To quote Susan, "When it doesn't feel like work anymore, you know you've got it right." Last one, and then a quick wrap-up. Tom Smallwood. You may have read about him in Sports Illustrated. Tom was a $12 an hour, $16 an hour assembly line worker for General Motors, lost his job like so many others, and decided as part of his strategy for finding a new job, he would enter a qualifying tournament for the PBA. Turns out he won the whole thing, and he's now a professional bowler. And when General Motors, shortly, like right around the time he won this thing, called him and said, "Hey, we have a job for you." He says, "Oh, sorry, I think I've got a new job. You can watch me do it this Sunday on ESPN." Lastly, to wrap up, a quick and final sidebar. This is my basement. About 2 weeks ago, like so many houses in Boston, was flooded. I had about 2 inches of water. That leaf is floating if you can't see it. Luckily, though, the damage we suffered was minimal, really minimal. The only thing that was damaged was this box full of advertising award show annuals. Literally the only thing in my entire house that suffered any damage at all, and we had tons of water in our basement. I think somebody was trying to tell me something. And lastly, I want to wrap up with the script for that United Way commercial that got me into advertising and actually ended up getting me out of advertising. It's so incredibly powerful. Little girl walking around a cemetery looks in the camera and says, "How do you want to be remembered? For the car you drove? As the guy who slid into second with his spikes up? For the woman with the power suit who everyone feared? As the one with the most toys? Or someone who cared? Someone who did some good? Someone who, on the day they're gone, people will say, today, there's a hole in the world." Thank you.